This video is sponsored by AroundWire, the world's first social exchange. Reserve your invitation today at aroundwire.com. Hey, welcome to Beta List. I've got Todd Garland, the founder of BuySellAds.com. How are you, man?
Pretty good. Hey guys, hey Beta List.
So tell me a little bit, BuySellAds is a huge platform for, buying, selling ads. And basically, what's the backstory? How'd you sort of how'd the company start? What's some cool things in the beginning of maybe just before the company, after the company. What's the sort of the fun love there? So
Sure. Yeah. I don't really have any great backstory for BuySellAds. It wasn't like this thing I came to that I had been kind of working towards. I mean, ultimately, I like building for the web. I like building software. I had some hobby sites I was running that I wanted to find a better way to sell those ads on directly to advertisers. And so I just started playing around and built a system that could, take that transaction, serve the ad, and kind of make it happen.
cool.
And 5 years later, that's still kind of the core of what BuySellAds is.
Very nice. So then, is your background in development, or did you just sort of sort of self-taught, or went to school for it, or what's sort of the story with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely a hack. I can't really consider myself like a designer. I also can't consider myself a developer.
Okay.
But I think, I guess I had good enough skills to put something together that actually worked. And then luckily it worked well enough that I could then go and hire the smart folks we have now to actually make it look pretty and work better. So
Very cool.
I just had the basic skills to put it together at first, really.
So you mentioned before, wasn't some sort of thing you're working towards, just sort of you could say spontaneous sort of company that you just started it and just went with. Um, Before that, you were in college, you dropped out, and then you just sort of pursued this on the side. I'm assuming, and just grew it. What would you say sort of the growth was like for the company, and sort of how things came into place? The puzzle was put together.
Yeah, I mean, the growth has always been kind of like, let's see, about like that.
Okay,
So,
fair enough.
it's definitely not like the hockey stick curve you hear about with every other startup out there that gets some press with the tech press. Um, really, I think, I discovered pretty quickly that it was actually a decent idea because people started using it. And at the time, I was still working a full-time job, and so I needed that, organic growth. Obviously, I was hustling. I was,
Yeah.
bugging people to sign up, bugging people to use it, and really doing a strong job of making sure that they actually were onboarded properly and were being successful on the platform. But ultimately, I think the core problem that we were solving was actually something that people wanted solved, and so that's why it, started to work and was a good idea.
Very
So.
cool. And in terms of your own personal methodologies, everyone's got sort of a different way that they run their company. That all of that, those sort of different things have lately been quite popular in different people's blogs or what have you. But personally, what's your sort of methodologies for running a company and being successful with it, and just sort of taking what you have and making do.
Yeah, so if I think back to when I first started BuySellAds, I was like 26, 27 at the time when I first started building the actual software. And I think, being in my 20s, I was working a full-time job, getting paid decently. But I think when we think about the American dream, it's like, about making all kinds of money and being really successful and having a house with a white picket fence and all those things.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fine to be driven by money and being passionate about trying to actually, create wealth for yourself. I think that's totally fine. And,
Yeah.
that was my initial driver with BuySellAds. I wanted to build something that I could, have fun
Yeah.
at, and
Passive
also,
income, make money.
yeah, make some good money. I think over time, though, and it's not like I'm, that much older and that much wiser. But 6, 7 years later, since I first started initially developing the software, I think what gets me up in the morning is a lot different than what did it originally. What gets me up in the morning right now is really just, trying to prove a couple things. clearly, I think with BuySellAds, we're trying to build a very large company. We'll probably do about 20 million in revenue this year. But ultimately, we're trying to build like $100 million company in the next few years. It's not it's not an Instagram, but $100 million is still a very, very large company.
I think you make more money than Instagram. So
what's that?
So I think you make more money than Instagram. So
I hope, yeah. But ultimately, like the what drives me isn't building an ATM machine for the sake of having all this money, and because I actually have an idea of what I do with that money. We want to build an ATM machine just for the sake of building an ATM machine, and we want to do it in a way that's unconventional. Yeah. So, I mean, if you follow, what everybody tells you is like the best startup advice and all these things, and all those, the kind of the preachers out there of the world, it's you can't do it with a remote team, and you need to raise money in order to, have a large company like this.
Yeah.
And so, what drives us is really just, trying to prove them wrong and trying to show other people that they too can build a company with a remote team without raising any cash. So, I mean, for me personally, it's not like, I'm this big rebel or anything like that, yeah. But I definitely like to try and prove people wrong. That's a lot of what drives me personally. So I guess you could say like a lot of what drives us with BuySellAds isn't necessarily advertising related. Yeah. Clearly, we're trying to solve real problems that people have, but ultimately, we're just trying to like prove that all the crap everybody hears out there that's spewed from the experts of the world about building companies. We just want to prove them wrong, and I know a lot of them are right. A lot of them have built these huge companies before, but we think that you can do it differently, and that's part of what we're out here trying to prove.
Very cool. Yeah. No, I've always been. I completely agree, because I've always sort of said, for a long time that. There's so many people saying, like you said, like, what to do, how to do it. Like, there's all these little tricks and things like that. And again, of course, of having good customer service and having good this, like, those little tricks are also, of course, good. But there's no formula to doing anything. There's no formula to build a company, a successful one, no matter what. It's all just sort of, what you bring and what you have to sort of, in your mind to set up, and that passion's the stuff that's going to, get you moving, a passion about anything, whether it be money or whether it be, who knows it, to get you going. So what would you say, like, the most successful, parts, and maybe the most least successful parts of BuySellAds in your experience for, personally, for going through and starting the company, running it, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely had a lot of unsuccessful moments. We've tried to launch products and different features and versions that really haven't been that successful. The core thing, like the core process of automating direct sales between advertisers and publishers, I'd say that's still the most successful thing we've done. We have a couple new products we're working through right now. And it's funny. It's like I'm trying to think of examples of things that I consider not successful.
Yeah.
One would be our private label software. We thought that would be a great idea. It worked. It kind of worked.
Yeah.
It hasn't been. We've shuttered it since then. But other than that, like, I have to admit, it's really hard to remember all the things that didn't work out. We just kind of moved past them. And like a lot of the things we're working towards are maybe even like future evolutions of the things that didn't work. Well,
that's sort of the best answer to it, though. I mean, it's you have those unsuccessful things, but then again, they may not be unsuccessful in the part that you learn from them, and you sort of move on and sort of say, okay, well, this might not have worked, let's just go and change that, and 1, 2, 3, and see what happens. That's that's sort of the core of any company is knowing when to say this is not going to work. So
I mean, there's that whole fail fast mentality, and like I get it, like the point is like to try things and fail fast and move on, but it just seems really like weird to me that people like really rally around the thought of failing.
Yeah,
it's like even though technically like things that we've done have been failures, like why do you even think of it that way? It's like, aren't they just like part of reaching success? So why even call it failing?
That's true.
I could go on ranting about stuff like that forever.
No, I could probably go with you. So, but very, very cool. Now, BuySellAds is, like I said before, it's become a very large platform, as of course, with 20 million revenue. Where do you like the underlying passions, like like you said, it's a remote team. What are some of the challenges you've had with the remote team? Maybe some of the positives, and also it also maybe to touch on the fact, like as you say, there's lots of people preaching different things here and there, which is extremely true. Lately, there's sort of been like this revelation, you could say, like, oh yeah, remote teams are awesome, blah blah blah, and everyone's, that's like sort of the hot thing. But like I don't think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's
So
remote's difficult, right? Like the most important skill for anybody on a remote team is really communication.
yeah,
So I actually think that you could take like, a mediocre developer, and if they can communicate very, very well, you have a very good chance of turning them into like a rock star developer. I also feel like, um, you know, with remote teams, there's this perception that like people aren't working,
yeah,
but like many times you get a heck of a lot more out of people because they're not spending a couple hours commuting to and from work each day.
yeah,
And it's not like the point of having a remote team is that you can get more out of people and like
yeah,
all these things, like the benefits being only for the business. Part of the reason behind having a remote team is also being able to give more benefits to those folks who are working remotely. Presumably many of them are actually working from home, right? So they see their family more often. Maybe they get distracted during the day by a crying baby or whatever it may be, or like
yeah,
having to pick their kids up from school or something like that. But like that's all part of life.
yeah,
And I think when people are happier, more happier personally, and when things are good with their family, you get a lot better production out of them in the workplace. And I think too, you know, as a general society, we have this notion around like you have to go into the city to work and go into an office to work. And I know it sounds really hypocritical because I'm sitting here in an office working.
yeah,
This just for me personally is the way I prefer to get work done.
yeah,
But for a lot of folks that work remotely, like they actually prefer to work from home. It just works better for them.
yeah,
So
for sure. And like like there's many sort of different thoughts on whether, like you said, like getting more out of them or having more efficiency or things like that. But I think that the underlying thing with any remote team is to actually they're more efficient because they're at home. As you said, they're more like they're happier because they can see their family, they can see everything else. But also the fact that they might be working less, but it's also they don't have to sit at a desk 8 hours a day and stare at their monitor.
totally.
They can just go and knock out that whatever they have to do in 3 or 4 hours, and okay, they might be getting paid for 8, but hey, it's done. It's anybody in an office would take probably 2 days to do the exact same thing with all the distractions. So yeah, very cool. Now, in terms of the model and everything else, you've really mentioned that like you guys try to stick really core to the model and really drive that home for the product. What are some sort of product development, maybe snafus or challenges you guys have had? You said you had a couple test products.
Mhm.
You're trying to innovate, but why do you think that maybe doesn't work sometimes, or maybe it does, or what's your sort of thoughts on that for maybe other companies trying to change around what they do as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think like with any company, like part of the evolution is like trying out new things because clearly like since like we have larger aspirations than what BuySellAds currently is, like we're gonna have to innovate something at some
Yeah,
point to get there. I think our like the actual marketplace has the potential to get there on its own, but even within the marketplace, we're going to have more innovations to drive more growth in the platform.
yeah,
Um, I think even like experimenting with other products is a good thing. I mean, we have right now arguably we have too much stuff going on, but at the beginning of this year, we met as a team and we said, okay, like what are we actually going to focus on this year? What do we want to accomplish this year? And I think many folks on the team were probably a little bored with just us having the marketplace.
yeah,
And so we started spawning out and building all these other things. And we made a decision. We just said, you know what? We're just going to build anything we can build and build everything. And even if it's like totally scattered and disorganized, and like it makes us lose a little focus from our core,
yeah,
it's going to like give us that creative freedom or expression or whatever you want to say,
yeah,
to actually get some sort of value out of it and then bring it either back into the core, or even like discover new businesses, right?
yeah, for sure.
So it's tricky, right? Like I feel like right now we're going through a period where we've done a lot of experimentation, and unfortunately, it seems like most of the things we're experimenting with are having enough success such that we have to continue to pursue them. And so we're having challenges around just figuring out like what's priority now. I mean, we have BuySellAds, the marketplace. We have BuySellAds Pro, which is just starting to do really well now. We have a new product at Tapped.com, which is a mobile product, which I mean, in the first month, like did the same number of sales that we had in oops, my computer just did the same number of sales that we had in the marketplace after like a year and a half.
Not bad.
And then we have another new product called Promoted.com, which is really us trying to reimagine what monetization looks like on the web. I mean, I don't know. I think from the outside looking in, people would say like, you need to focus. But for us, experimenting with these new things is, really just us trying to figure out how we take what BuySellAds is now and turn it into something a heck of a lot larger. Whether or not they're successful individually or not,
Yeah.
to be honest, I don't really care. What matters to me is that we keep building, keep shipping product.
Yeah, and just making sure that there is that innovation sort of culture in the company, and not just like you said, like people getting bored and just sort of the usual. Oh yeah, this guy emailed about this. Okay, very cool. And it's just sort of finally, just what's as personally have you've sort of gotten the most out of the company, meaning. What have you taken out? What have you learned the most? And like, what if you would you apply that to other things? Like, what are the core sort of things you've learned from starting, like, a $20 million revenue a year company in the course of 5 years, really? So 5-6 years.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing I've learned is that like, nothing comes easy, nothing comes fast. Achieving success only gets you to want to achieve more success, and so as you go through that path, I think you find yourself constantly redefining what success actually means to you. And I'd say the most important thing for me is just it's kind of like the revelation I had when I was working at HubSpot. It was like, wait a second, like this is becoming a really, really large company,
Yeah.
and I'm building like little pieces of this. Not that I can take any credit for their success now, because like the stuff I worked on back then is nowhere near as nice or as good as like everything I've done since. But the point is that like the products you see out there every day in everyday life, the products you use, the web apps you use, the things you use to actually like run your life, and that you like see and touch and feel every day, like those things were built by people just like you and me.
Yeah.
And so I think for a lot of people, it's intimidating to think about like, an iPad, like I could never build something like that. It's like, well, why not? I mean, there are things out there that everybody can build. I think just don't underestimate yourself. A lot of people really, really underestimate the skills that they have to actually build stuff. So.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Like, there's always, they go and they see, they follow the people who sort of say, oh yeah, do this, this, and this, and try and like, work off of their formula instead of sort of going and saying, hey, well, I have this idea. Why the hell don't I just build it? Like, I don't need to listen to X, Y, or Z. I just gotta, go and tackle it and kick it in the nuts and run. So,
Get going.
Very cool. Well, man, I mean, any things you guys have down the pipeline that you wanna, sort of share, or any sort of little cool tidbits that are coming out, or?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of spilled my guts with Tap Promoted.
Okay, fair enough.
We're working on a new product right now called Advertiser Pro. So the current BuySellAds Pro is really Publisher Pro.
Okay.
Now we're working on an advertiser version of that. So think about all the places that advertisers buy ads right now, and how they're managing those in all these separate systems.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago, it wasn't that big of a deal because all you really had was Google AdWords and maybe a couple other things and some direct buy ads, right?
It's not
but now it's like you've got AdWords, Facebook ads, Twitter ads. Maybe you're even buying ads on Reddit self-serve platform.
Yeah.
Like you've got all these different things that you're kind of munging together in these spreadsheets, and we're building a platform that I can't really say platform yet. We're building a piece of software.
Yeah, there you go.
That helps bring all that stuff together and help you kind of digest that as a whole versus in all these different fragmented places.
Very, very cool, man. I'll look forward to checking some of that out. And yeah, thanks a lot. It's been great hearing about how you came, saw, and conquered.
So we're still working on it. Lots of work to do.
Yeah, sounds good. Man. Speak soon. See you.
Thanks, Jeff.